And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday morning's flying weather showing IFR across the eastern north slope out to the coast. A little bit of IFR here just south of the Brooks Range down to or along the Porcupine Yukon River location. Otherwise, we'll see VFR in the interior here. Band of IFR right along the southwest coast into Bristol Bay, right across the Barrens and then down into the Gulf, leaving the southeast coast, pretty much VFR. And some IFR here for the eastern and central Aleutians. And for the afternoon, marginal VFR moves onto the coast of the Panhandle with VFR for the eastern North Gulf Coast into the Copper River Basin. Some marginal VFR up into Prince William Sound and over the northeastern interior. Otherwise, pretty good over the central and northern part of the state to the Brooks Range. North of the mountains there, IFR. IFR along the southwest coast, IFR Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians to Atka, and then extending northward into the Bering Sea. And for Friday morning, IFR down over the Bering Sea to the Fox Islands on up east-northeastward to Kodiak Island. Marginal VFR into the Kuskokwim Valley, Southern Cook Inlet across the southwest interior. And still a lot of VFR over the interior areas down into south central Alaska. Some marginal VFR for the east side and north of the Brooks Range, pretty much IFR. And for the southeast coast, marginal VFR in the north, IFR in the south. And for the afternoon, central Panhandle, looking at a band of IFR right through the area there, bracketed by marginal VFR to the north and south, marginal conditions from the North Gulf Coast, and locally up over the mountainous terrain of south central Alaska. IFR right across southern Cook Inlet, actually Kamishak, Kachemak Bay areas down into Fognak Island. Another zone of IFR out here over the Dillingham-Togiak area down into the Alaska Peninsula. Then a break to the west of that, followed by more IFR pushing in toward Adak. And for the passes, both Anatuvik and Adigan, looking a little marginal for both passes there in the Brooks Range tomorrow. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy VFR, windy VFR, Isabel, marginal VFR, Mentasta VFR, Tanita back to marginal VFR, Portage looking pretty marginal, especially on the eastern entrance, and Chilkoot and White VFR. Freezing levels at the surface near St. Matthew Island, down across Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island, and just off the North Gulf Coast, in along the south coast of the Panhandle, 2,000 to 4,000 feet there across Kodiak Island. About the same for the southeast Bering Sea here, 2,000 to 4,000 feet. Icing, moisture band elongating eastward here, has some areas of considerable moderate rime icing with it here along the Alaska Peninsula and back to the west-northwest there, south of the Pribilofs and north of the eastern Aleutians. And could be some areas of light to isolated moderate rime icing for the southeast coast. Jet stream here, cutting right across the Gulf of Alaska, about 155 knots and diving southeastward there, staying mostly west of the Panhandle areas, and then southwest flow, quite strong, but south of the Alaska Peninsula in this area with lighter westerly winds to the north. And for 3,000 feet, general trough of low pressure here along the Yukon River. To the north of that, east winds up to 35 knots to the western Arctic coast. Southeast, narrow band here, 35 to 40 knots there across the Bering Sea with the stronger winds out of the west, south of the Aleutians. Light winds for the southeast coast. 3,000 feet here, weak low off the Panhandle there, and not too much in the way of wind associated with that. And up along the Arctic coast, central western coast, easterlies at 35 to 40 knots, southeast 45 across the Alaska Peninsula, northwest 50 knots to the west of this low center, coming down across the east central Aleutians. Turbulence, look for moderate turbulence actually, along the Alaska Peninsula there, and for Adak and Atka as well, and possibility of some isolated moderate turbulence for the western Arctic coast.